What's happening, everyone? I'm James Lynch. This is the Fanatics View Hockey Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, post them in the chat. We'll get to every single one of them. You can't, or I can, I should say. Apologies again for the voice. I don't know what's going on. This me coaching hockey on top of doing everything else I'm doing is not my voice 100%. So you guys know I coach under 9 boys ball hockey. My son's on the team. So we had a game last night. We won. So that's why the voice is a little bit raspy, but we're going to plug through it here like we usually do. Again, post your questions in the chat. We'll get to them. We're going to start first, like we usually do on this show. Go through all the content that was posted on the channel here last night. We're going to go through the games last night. We're going to talk about tonight's games. There's a couple big ones, including the Canucks and Oilers, which we will get into. I got to wear the jersey. Listen, I'm not a hockey journalist. Let's just point that out. I'm a very unapologetic Canucks fan. I'm actually going to game 1 tonight against the Oilers. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, just make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to grow the show as much as we can, and appreciate you guys tuning in here on a Wednesday in our normal slot. I know the last couple ones have been at night, which has been great, but obviously I'm not going to be around tonight because I'll be at the game. So let's first start with what we got going on the Fanatics View channel. My guy Taylor, who runs Fanatics View, great job posting content up here. So you can look there. Dallas Stars post-game interviews. Of course, Dallas losing last night. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. The Avalanche coming out on top. Some good stuff there. And again, you're getting long media scrums here. 12 minutes here, 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes here for the Avalanche. You've got Jared Bednar, the coach of the Avalanche, talking. We've got Rick Tocchet from yesterday as well, and the Canucks. So a lot of good stuff here as far as pregame for the Canucks. Big game tonight against the Edmonton Oilers. And just lots of stuff. The great thing is you're going to get a variety of teams here on the channel. So if you're a fan of, any of the teams that are remaining in the playoffs, this is the place to be. You're not going to get everything in one spot. You'll see the snippets, the little clips on, your local sports shows and all that. But these are the full ones, which is great. So you get the full stuff, and you don't have to. The nice thing too that Taylor does with his channel is you don't have to go to the Dallas Stars page, or you don't have to go to the Vancouver Canucks page to find everything. You got everything in one spot. So shout out again to my guy Taylor for putting all this stuff up. He stays up at night and puts all this stuff on here. So make sure you go check it out. And again, subscribe to the channel. We are slow close to 10,000 subscribers. We want to get there as soon as possible. So if you guys can subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, that would mean a lot. Let's get into last night's action. Couple crazy games here. Let's start first with the one game that I really wanted to talk. Well, let's talk about last night's game. Then we can go back a couple days before, talk about some of the action that happened since the last time we were live. And then we'll talk about tonight's games. There's just 2 games here tonight. Boston and Florida, and the Oilers and Canucks. But let's start first with the game from last night. The first game was the Rangers and the Hurricanes. The Rangers now up 2-0. Feels like the second round just started the other day, and now the Rangers are already up 2-0. A lot of good play here from the Rangers. Their goaltender, obviously, standing on their head, or standing on his head, I should say, getting it done. Look at the amount of saves last night. Shesterkin, 54 saves last night. This is what the playoffs is about, ladies and gentlemen. You need elite goaltending. I've talked about this even before the playoffs. You need a hot goalie to go far in the playoffs. Last year, Vegas had that with Adin Hill. This year, the Rangers are getting it from Shesterkin, who's been Shesterkin's been a top goalie for a long time, but now the Rangers have the pieces to actually support him, and you're seeing it pay dividends here, which is great to see. You see Panarin there, 3 assists last night. Lafreniere, remember, this is a guy who, people were talking about trading earlier this season. He got 2 goals. And Trocheck, who's been a great acquisition for them, 1 goal and 1 assist. Early, they were up 2-1, and the Rangers coming back, tying it, and then tying it in the third, and then getting the OT winner as well. So the Rangers are going to be a tough out. I like the Rangers in this series. If you guys remember, actually, I don't think I even mentioned this because I don't think the Rangers, or no, they might have both advanced the last time we did this show live. I can't remember, but either way, if you guys want to know my pick is the Rangers. Even before the series started, I think the Rangers are going to be going to the finals. I really am a believer in them. And with the Hurricanes, they have a lot of offensive firepower as well, but I do wonder about the goaltending a little bit. Frederik Andersen, he's good, but he's not Igor Shesterkin. Let's look on the other side here with the Hurricanes. Aho with 3 assists, which is great. Jake Getzel, their big pickup at the deadline, 2 goals. You'd like to see that. And a couple of assists here from Skekel and Shevnikov as well. So you look at Freddie Andersen making a lot of saves as well. This is a game, or this is a series too, that the over seems to be hitting, right? I think the over was at 6. It hit last night at 7, and both goalies getting a lot of action. So this is one of the most high scoring series. And again, the Rangers up 2-0. We'll see how things look when the series shifts back to Carolina for game 3, but really big win there for the Rangers, who have taken a stranglehold, not a stranglehold, but they've taken a pretty good lead here overall. This game was interesting, and my boss Taylor's not going to want to hear this because he's a Dallas Stars guy, but the Dallas Stars were up 3-0 in the first period. So I'm on my way back home from ball hockey last night. My kids' team won, by the way, 1-0. Very happy for the boys last night getting it done. But the Stars are up 3-0. The first thing that's going in my head is, man, the Avs, it looks like the time off actually hurt them because they got off really slow. Pretty hard to come back from 3-0. The Avalanche score 2 in the second. Score 1 in the third, and then in the overtime, they get it done. The Avalanche are a lethal team, guys. I think we know this already, but again, you're going to see a lot of goal scoring in this series as well. How crazy is it that both games last night ending 4-3? But you look at Cale Makar, one of the top defensemen in the league, Norris candidate, I should say, 1 goal and 2 assists. McKinnon, of course. McKinnon's always going to be a difference maker when you have him on your team. Outstanding stuff there. And then you look at Georgiev, a little rough start, right? 3 goals let in, just 19 saves last night. That's one thing, and I even texted my boss last night mentioning this. I do worry a bit about the Avs goaltending because you can only outscore your opponent so much. So that's one thing. While they did get the win, I still think Dallas can take this series because they have the better goaltender at the end of the day. Now on the Stars end of thing, Jamie Benn, 1 goal and 1 assist. He's having a great season. Wyatt Johnson, what a great story he's been. Coming in here, getting a goal last night. Jason Robertson with an assist. Ryan Suter having that veteran experience on the back end. And Ottinger only making 22 saves as well. So if you look at the overall score sheet, right, like the goaltending was kind of even. But if you're asking me to pick, gun to my head, which goalie I want in net at the end of the day, it's going to be Jake Ottinger over Georgiev. So Dallas comes up short. But again, I think they're very much in this series. Like I said in the last series with Vegas, I did call the Stars to upset the Golden Knights, and they got that done. Actually, I wouldn't have been an upset because Stars were the higher seed. But so those are the 2 games from last night. Let's get your questions here quickly, and then we'll move on to the rest of the show. Troy, do you think EP480 is playing injured? He just has him in the same player as the regular season. It's confusing to me. I think so in case people don't know what we're talking about here, Elias Pettersson, not a very good first round against the Predators, didn't score, didn't really contribute that much. Something's up with him. I think it's a combination of things. I think he is a little bit banged up, but I think it's a confidence thing as well. Like he just has become too calculated. If you watch how he played before the All-Star break, you see some of the moves he made where he was unpredictable and he was moving his feet, as Rick Tocchet says all the time. We haven't seen that Elias Pettersson's basically since the All-Sar break. So I do think it's partially an injury thing, but I think it's also a confidence thing because we saw this a little while back as well. I believe it was early on in the Boudreau tender when he took over for Travis Green, during the Travis Green era, I should say. We've seen Pettersson go through little slumps like this, but he's got to pick it up. I will say this right now. If Pettersson does not step up in this second round, if he does not contribute more, and it's not even about goals and assists, it's about just being active out there. It's about getting shots on net. It's about getting that quick release. It's about being valuable on the power play. If Pettersson can't do that, I don't see how the Canucks win this series. Spoiler alert. I think the Oilers will have the advantage there because the Canucks need difference makers on their team, and Pettersson is certainly one that can elevate that. So to answer your question, Troy, I think it's a combination of both. Name one X factor for each team in the Canucks versus Oilers. Mine are Evander Kane and EP40. If those players play well, they can elevate their teams to a win. Well, you're exactly right. Kane is one too. I think what it's going to come down to, and Jeff Merrick was on Sportsnet 650 this morning, and I completely agree. I think one of the X factors in this series will be the third line, because here's the thing. There's still a lot of unknown with Seelovs, and obviously Stuart Skinner's a bit of a wild card as well. He had that meltdown game in Game 2 against the LA Kings. I think I'm just going to predict this, and I'm not saying this because I'm biased. I think Seelovs is the real deal. I know there's a bit of, maybe him being naive, being a young kid, not really knowing the magnitude of what he's playing for. This is also a guy who won at the high level, was the MVP in the World Championships with Latvia. He's played in high pressure situations. So this idea that, McDavid and the Oilers, it's going to be a big deal, maybe something he's not used to. I think playing in a World Championship is pretty big, and I think he'll be able to handle it. So as far as the goaltending goes, I think the Canucks have that. As much as, Seelovs has only played a handful of games and Stuart Skinner's been a veteran, we haven't seen Seelovs have any meltdown games, but we've seen that with Stuart Skinner. So I think the goaltending edge, even though he's their third stringer, I think does go to the Canucks. I think the Canucks have the better defense as well. There's been some debate about this. I don't think Evan Bouchard is a better defenseman than Quinn Hughes. I don't think Darnell Nurse is as good of a defenseman as Quinn Hughes and some of the other defensemen on the Canucks. So I think the Canucks got them beat there. The forward group for Edmonton is better, but let me tell you something. Who's Edmonton's third line? I'm not even 100% sure right now, but the Canucks have a pretty solid third line. Now, that third line could be either two combinations. It could either be Dakota Joshua, Connor Garland, and I think is it Suter? I can't remember. I got to double check the lines there. And then there's obviously the line with Lindholm as well. So I think the Canucks have a deeper roster, but I think Edmonton has the better players. Like, I mean, look at that. They got Nugent Hopkins, they got Kane, they got Draisaitl, they got McDavid. That is better than the overall superstars on the Canucks. But their third and fourth line, like I think a Teddy Bluger is a better contributor than some of the fourth line guys on the Oilers. So that's where things get interesting. But you're talking about the X factor. I think it could be that third line. Whose third line steps up? We've seen this time and time again. You go back a couple seasons ago with Tampa Bay, right? They had that line with, I think it was Barclay Goodrow, Yanni Gord, and who's the other guy? Blake Coleman, right? That was a difference maker for Tampa Bay. I think whoever's third line can kind of elevate themselves. I think that's going to be a factor as well. And I think that another X factor for the Canucks possibly winning this series is staying out of the penalty box. The Oilers were very lethal on the power play against the King. I guess we're getting into the Canucks and Oilers preview right now. We might as well just do that now, and then we'll get to the rest of your questions here. But those are some X factors. I think Stuart Skinner has to play well for the Oilers if they want to win. I think McDavid has to really, capitalize on those chances. I think they really have to make Arthur Silovs busy. And you're right. I think Kane needs to step up. And I think some of the unsung heroes, some of the guys on the Oilers that you don't think of need to step up as well. For the Canucks, it's Pettersson, it's Miller, it's Besser. It's those guys playing well. Lindholm had a good first round. Let's see if he can continue that in this series. I'm not expecting Demko to play in this series. I know there's some talk about him maybe coming in game 5. If Silovs is playing well, why on earth would you bring Demko back now when he could potentially get injured again? I think you ride Silovs until things don't work out. And then if things don't work out, then you play with DeSmith. DeSmith has played Edmonton this year. He has that experience. I think the Canucks should look at that option and not rush Demko back, because let's face it, I'm no doctor. Obviously, that's why I'm doing this instead. But Demko's not going to be the Demko we saw in game 1 of Nashville. He's just not. Like, I don't know how he's got an injury. To come back and step into a high pressure situation like this is going to be tough. So I would ride Silovs as much as possible. So again, just to get back to what I said, I think for the Oilers, it's about having good goaltending. It's about having some of those guys step up. And I think for the Canucks, it's not a lot of penalties. Pettersson stepping up and their third line elevating themselves as well. Do you think it's possible that Mitch Marner can be traded and actually be better elsewhere than he was for Toronto? Yes, absolutely. I just think some players, it just doesn't work out with certain teams. I'm trying to think of some examples, but like, even look at a guy like, okay, let's use like a small example here. Remember the Sharks giving up on Joe Pavelski? Like, he's played really well for Dallas since coming over there. He obviously had a lot more than people thought. Now, would Pavelski have been as successful in San Jose as he would have been in Dallas? It's tough to say. Dallas is a better team. Dallas is a little bit more loaded up. So I think a change of scenery, I think that's the guy you got to get rid of if you're the Leafs, is Marner, because I don't know how many playoffs it's been now. He just is not a factor. And that could be the high pressure of Toronto. It could be a variety of things, but he needs a change of scenery. Now, the thing is, who's going to take that contract? That's the big question. The Leafs have a lot of work to do. We're going to find out. Like, I don't know what the Leafs are going to do. Like, there could be, some really significant changes. Like, do you go for the jugular here? I mean, they have a new president now. Or not president, but Keith Pelley, I know, is in charge of the Leafs now. Do you get rid of Brendan Shanahan at the top and work your way down? Or do you keep Shanahan and you just fire the coach? Like, I think if you're the Leafs, like this record's been played over and over again, right? They can't get even to the third round. So to me, I don't mind them trying to blow this thing up a little bit. Trade a Marner, trade some other guys, switch up the makeup of this team, and they got to get a goaltender. Like, that is an issue. Like, nothing against Samsonov, but like, you need something. Like, they would be better off keeping Wall, getting rid of Samsonov, and bringing in like a veteran, like someone that has some sort of experience, because you're basically relying on 2 young goaltenders to get you to the Cup finals. That just does not work. Like I said, Vegas was a bit of an anomaly with Hill and Thompson. When we saw this year, it didn't really matter. So I think the Leafs got to do that. Quickly, let's take a look at the other game for tonight. Boss, listen, I will say something. Sorry for the other game here, guys. The other game tonight is the Bruins and the Panthers. I got this completely wrong. I thought the Panthers looked very lethal in the first round. They looked terrible on the other night, and Bruins took advantage. And I'm sure the Bruins are riding the high of, taking out the Leafs, and that was a hard-fought series. I don't know how the series is going to go. If Florida can play any way they played in that first round, I think they can win this series. But they have to win this game. Otherwise, I think if Boston wins again on the road, it's going to be tough for the Panthers to come back here. I don't think Bobrovsky played, let's actually look back at that last game and kind of look at the stats here. It was 5-1 for the Bruins in the last game. You saw 3 goals in the second period. So, even first period. And then you look at the shots on goal here. Swayman, who played outstanding. He is definitely their guy. 38 saves compared to just 24 for Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky's got to be better. And I think the big thing for the Panthers is just playing a complete full game. You can't take your foot off the gas in the second period like they did and let 3 goals in. That just can't happen. And then also in the third period. So I think this will be closer. Who's going to win tonight? I think the Panthers will do it. I think they'll figure it out because they're just too good of a team. I said this before. I think the Stars, the Avalanche, and the Panthers are in a league of their own. Boston certainly made me question that the other night with the Panthers. Maybe Boston's in that category. But I think the Panthers will bounce back. They have to. If they don't, then they're in serious trouble because they should. I mean, if you just look at how the teams played in the regular season, I know it was close. Florida was the better team. So, they should get this done, but we'll see. And again, Brandon Carlo, who's been playing lights out for the Bruins, has been a big factor for them as well. So, again, tonight, I think the Panthers do get it, but again, the Bruins shocked me the other night, so don't take my word for it. Mariner has no move. Same with Tavares. They will need to waive the clause. But the thing is, I think there's a possibility of him getting moved. I think he would be willing to move it because, listen, how can anybody be happy with how things have gone? I think with Marner, imagine if you're Marner and you're making the money you're making and you go to a Tampa or Florida. I'm not saying they would get him, but somewhere where there's not as much media attention, he might do better. So you're right about the no trade. That's a very good point. But we've seen guys waive before. Look at Kuzmenko, right? For the Canucks, granted, not as anywhere near the star caliber player, the salary that Marner has, but he's also a guy that, basically was able to waive his no trade clause and get it done. So, that's sort of my thoughts on that. Let's keep coming with your questions, and then we'll talk some more puck here. I don't like Mikheyev on that line with Petey. Chemistry doesn't seem to be there. Hoaglander look good on the left side or loose here. Yeah, I would agree. Switch it up a little bit. Mikheyev has also been a bit of a disappointment. He's another guy I should mention that needs to step it up. He's a guy you might look at trading next year because it just has not worked out. And to his credit, he had that groin injury last year. He really should have gone into the knife earlier. The Canucks should have not played him as much as they did and I know it was his choice too, but they weren't going to make the playoffs last season. In hindsight, that was not a good move. They should have let him heal up. He's just not as fast and as dynamic as he was with Toronto. So, you're right though. He's got to get going too. Ask me an MMA question. Yeah, the interview's posted on my YouTube channel. I don't know what you're trying to ask here. It's on there as well. Imagine Marner under a Rick Tocchet system. He'd play well, but Marner's never coming to the Canucks. The Canucks have an issue with cap space. They're probably not going to be able to keep everyone they have from this year's team. Organizations can do a lot of things that don't get reported to make it very uncomfortable for players with no trade clause to move. The Steve Dangle podcast said Marner was open to leaving last year. So there you go. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past the Leafs, Marner waiving his no trade and doing all these other things. They just need to split it up. It's not working. We've been over this again. How many more times do you need to see that this is not working? They got to switch something up. And we've seen this with other teams where they've had maybe a good team on paper, but it hasn't worked out. You have to move some pieces. I'm trying to think of an example, even going way back, looking at Colorado when they traded Matt Duchene back in the day, that was one where it's okay, this isn't working. We need to try something new, Nashville with Ryan Johansson, trying to think of some other teams where they've kind of shaken things up a little bit. Look at Tampa parting with McDonough, kind of figuring out ways that things could maybe work a little bit better or try different things, I think is never a bad idea for certain teams. Mariners 100% gone. He's going to end up going to Columbus Blue Jackets, Utah. What does Blue Jackets, do they have cap space? And who could they trade? Who goes back? Line A? I don't know. Let's see the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think they actually do have some cap space. I think we talked about this last week too. It was either them or another team. I can't remember. Okay, so they have $4 million in cap space. And, maybe there's a possibility of them moving some pieces here. Got a couple of UFAs as well. Nothing too substantial. Wow, Provorov's a UFA after next season. Erica Branson. God, that's a bad contract. Why would you give him $4 million? I get defensemen are a hot commodity. I think he's a right shot defenseman too, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, he is a right shot. So right shot, we've talked about this before. Right shot defensemen, centers, they're the hottest commodity out there. But $4 million for Gabranson, who's been on I don't know how many teams, including the Canucks, that's too much. Way too much. Bovequist is a RFA, so he's someone they might look to move as well. Yeah, so we'll see what they do there. But yeah, that might be that might be something worth looking at. Blue Jackets are another weird team because they signed Gaudreau to that big contract, but they're not close to being in the playoffs. They have only $20 million in cap space when the upcoming RFAs expire. Do they? Okay, let's see the math on this. I'll take your word for it. Math was never my strong suit, but Crowley, no, this is 2000. It's this season 24-25. So who's coming off the books? Meyer, Brendan Gaunch is on the Blue Jackets. Jesus, I remember him on the Canucks. Jake Bean, he's an RFA though. Because I'm only seeing $4 million. Is Line? Yeah, Line signed for a couple more seasons. I'll take your word for it, but it says $4 million, but I guess they have to update it for later. I'm not entirely sure. I'll take your word for it though, Troy. Cap is going up. Oh yeah, you're right. The cap is going up 4.5 million, which conveniently is the amount that they have to pay Oliver Ekman-Larsson next year for the Canucks. So they're not going to be able to do too much. I'm a Jackets fan. Trust me, Gabranson has been a ray of sunlight for us. He's a veteran and basically a placeholder for our prospects to develop. Still too much though for $4 million. Like $4 million for a locker room guy. Luke Schen's a locker room guy. I would rather take Luke Schenn over Gabranson personally, but I'll take your word for it. You probably do know better than I do, but I remember seeing that contract and being like, okay, $4 million for like a season or two. It was like $4 million for like 4 years. It's a little bit too much. Agreed. Some guys don't want to be in the consistent spotlight, especially in Canada. Utah has tons of second and third round picks to deal with. Yeah, Utah's a team to keep an eye on. Formerly the Arizona Coyotes. The owner wants to be aggressive. They have cap space. They have probably one of the best prospect pools in the NHL right now. They're going to be aggressive. You know, Mitch Marner, do you like skiing? Do you want to go up to Utah and, get out of the spotlight? Like, that's, I think, one of the reasons why, like, a Steven Stamkos is, never wanted to come to Toronto. I don't think he's like, no, it's not for me. Joe Sakic, same thing. There was opportunities for him to go to other teams. He didn't want to do it. Paul Kariya is another one I know didn't want to leave and go to a big, high-pressure city. So some guys like it, some guys don't. JT Miller seems to like the media in Canada. He likes the fan base and all that. That's why he signed his 8-year deal. So there we go. In theory, his contract is too much compared to market value, but Chibi J are nowhere near contending. It's not the end of the world. I guess since they have cap space, you're 100% right about that, Troy. By the way, I got to say this, and Troy, I'm glad you're in this chat. I love hearing from passionate hockey fans from markets that I don't follow that much. I have a friend of mine who I actually want to get here at some point. He does some writing for the Hockey News. My friend Andrew, he's like diehard Senators fan. So I remember right away when they hired Travis Green yesterday, which by the way, we can talk about that too if you guys want. He was like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, honestly, I think it's a good fit for you guys. Green is very good with younger players. He's patient. He just had a bad roster at the end with the Canucks. So, but what I'm getting to with what Troy's saying here is like, Andrew knows the ins and outs of Ottawa. Like, I don't follow the Senators enough to know like what's happening behind the scenes. He does. So like Troy, me telling this about Gabranson is good to know. Like on the outside looking in, I wouldn't know that about him being a good locker room guy. So I love hearing that. So if any of you guys are like hardcore fans of certain teams that maybe I don't follow, I would love to hear any sort of tidbits you guys are hearing. Cause I try and follow all the teams I can, but there's certain stuff that I'd like to, kind of dig in a little bit deeper. Why don't we talk quickly about the Travis Green news? I know this is, obviously the playoffs are coming up, but Travis Green joining the Ottawa Senators yesterday. Let's get the news here. Actually, they have a poll up. I'm curious to see what the Senators have. Whoops, the stupid ad blocker. Let me bring this up here. Yeah, let's have a quick look at that. So Travis Green obviously getting hired, formerly the Canucks, formerly the New Jersey Devils. So I was a little bit confused by that. I guess the Devils said they didn't want him, or they're going to find someone else. So I believe there's 6 coaching vacancies, possibly 5 or 6. Winnipeg, Rick Bowness retiring. That's a big lucrative coaching job right now, is going into Winnipeg because they have a pretty good team, right? So Winnipeg's out there. Who else? San Jose fired David Quinn, so that's 2. Seattle fired Dave Haskell, that's 3. New Jersey needs a coach now with Green leaving. Who else? Is there any other coaches I'm missing? You guys let me know in the chat. Here, let me just look up NHL coaching vacancies. Let's see. Yeah, the Blues obviously keeping Drew Bannister. I don't know a lot about Drew Bannister, if I'm being honest. But some of the coaches that are available that come to mind that are like, possibilities, like old heads. I don't know about some of the newer coaches that are coming in, but some of the old coaches that could be available. Bruce Boudreau for the, formerly of the Canucks. He's always, a name just because of what he's accomplished in his career. You've got Craig Berube, who's a very popular coach in St. Louis before getting let go. You've got, who else? Dave Haskell, with formerly the Kraken, could be an option for some teams. He also coached in Philadelphia. Who else is out there? And Sheldon Keefe might get fired for the Leafs, so that's another possible vacancy as well. And then there's Joel Quenneville. I think there's a possibility of Joel Quenneville coaching this year. Of course, he was with Florida, basically got let go because of the allegations with the Chicago Blackhawks. I think enough time has passed where I think he'll be back. And I suppose Mike Babcock, but I think Mike Babcock's probably done. Troy, you let me know. That whole Mike Babcock situation with Columbus was a complete disaster. I also want to know, Pascal Vincent, I believe, is the coach of the Blue Jackets. Is he coming back next year? Because I know he was kind of like abruptly, promoted as head coach when the whole Babcock thing went down. Are they looking for another coach too? So it'll be interesting to see some movement. Obviously, we're going to get some guys that we haven't heard of or some people in the system. I'm going to call it right now, guys. As far as Seattle, I think Dan Bylsma is going to be the head coach of the Seattle Kraken because he's coaching their minor league team, and Bylsma obviously having Stanley Cup experience with the Penguins. I know it didn't work out in Buffalo, but I could see him being the head coach of the Kraken. And then, by the way, Lindy Ruff, we didn't even talk about this on the last show. Lindy Ruff going back to Buffalo. What a throwback there. I don't know how that's going to work. I know that's a popular choice among Sabres fans because, Lindy Ruff, he's like Mr. Buffalo forever. He played for them too. But Ruff doesn't play with a lot of structure, and I think that's kind of what they need. That's one of the reasons I think Don Granato didn't last in Buffalo was because they had a team that was very undisciplined and very unstructured. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see. The problems that they have to be addressed are the buyout trade in Elvis and Laine. That's true. Yes. Has there ever been a trade that hasn't worked out less for teams than the Dubois and Laine trade? I'm trying to think of one recently, but like both those trades didn't work out for either people. Dubois might get bought out in LA. I was surprised Berube wasn't in Ottawa. Green might do okay there, though. I think Green will do well. Berube will go. I don't know where Berube will go. I think Winnipeg would be a good fit for him, but we'll see. What players on the Senators are most likely to be traded this offseason? They are loaded with talent, but I feel like some of the top guys need to be moved around. Well, apparently Chychrun's not working out, which is weird because he's a hometown guy with Ottawa. But you look at how much it costs to get him from Arizona. Do teams have the assets and the cap space to get a Jacob Chychrun? That's going to be interesting. So we'll see about that. I think he's one. I don't know. Let's look at the Ottawa Senators cap. Like, are there guys that are movable with contracts? So they have $16 million in cap space. Or is that 16,000? Yeah, that's only 16,000. Never mind. Yeah, Schultz is locked up. Stutzel, sorry, said that wrong. Brady Tkachuk locked up. Claude Giroux's got a couple more seasons. Drake Batherson's locked up. Drake Batherson actually might be a decent trade asset. Kubalik is a UFA, so don't think he'll be back. Shane Pinto's an RFA. He could be a guy that they trade. Remember, they had the whole gambling situation with him. Shabbat. I've heard some rumblings about Shabbat maybe getting let go, but he's a left shot D, so not as lucrative. You look at Chychrun, who's on a good contract, but he's going to demand a lot. Plus, he's an RFA. They've got their goaltending locked up a bit, so we'll have to see if they want to move anything. Man, Bobby Ryan comes off the books. Forgot that he was bought out. And Matt Murray also is in Tarasenko. I guess they retain salary on him as well. So yeah, we'll see. It's going to be really interesting to see if they make any moves here. They have a couple young defensemen and young forwards as well. We'll see if there's anything they can do there. Maybe Hamonic's a trade piece, although he wasn't very good when we had him here in Vancouver. So yeah, Senators will be interesting. Berube in Columbus would be unreal. Yeah, that actually might be a fit too. Right? Because I think you guys did pretty well under Tortorella. I feel like Berube is kind of the same like old school type of coach. They need a coach and GM. Good point. Yeah. And what GMs are available too? I don't even know. Do they do like a wild card move like they did with Nashville bringing in Barry Trotz? Maybe they bring in someone we don't know. I don't even know what GMs are out there right now. That would be good. Troy, do you know, are there any names you're hearing as far as the GM moves for Columbus right now? Because they need to do something. They can't hire a coach until they get their GM. Unless you're the Canucks, right? They hired Boudreau before they hired Patrick Alvin. San Jose, Quinn was recently fired. It'll be tough slog there before winning. I mean, it's kind of weird that they fired Quinn because like they weren't supposed to be good, right? But I guess they were so bad. I mean, that might go down as one of the worst NHL teams ever. I mean, they certainly deserved that first lottery pick that they got yesterday, Celebrini. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure who would want to take the job in San Jose, but it'd have to be a coach that's good with young players here. Maybe Haskell's a good fit there. I don't know. Although it didn't seem like I remember in Philly, he was not very good with the younger players. So they need someone like Travis Green, someone a little bit more patient. Yeah, I don't even know. I'd like to know. Someone should, hey, Athletic, if you're out there, you should compile a list of coaches that, sorry, I'm trying to move this headphone thing. They need to compile a list of like coaches that could be available right now. I'm just going to move this back here. Just annoys me, this being in the background. Yeah. All right. So keep the questions coming, everyone. Again, we looked at some of the action. Let's go back a bit further and look at how we got to where we got to in the second round. We could talk a little bit about that. And then after that, we can discuss, some of the other stuff you guys might want to get into. What else? Let's see. Okay. So if we go back a little bit here, guys, let's go all the way back to Sunday quickly and just kind of rewind and kind of talk our way through it. So going back to Saturday, well, first going back to Friday, Canucks winning, Pius Suter scoring late for that one. Canucks narrowly edging out the Predators. They move on to the second one. Oh, you know what? This reminds me of something. Let's talk about this. Andrew Brunette. Quote. Andrew Brunette. Let me find the actual thing. It's on Twitter somewhere here. 1 second. I remember seeing this yesterday. Let's see. Here we go. Let me know what you guys think of this. I think this is ridiculous. This is from Emma Lingen, who does work for the Predators. Andrew Brunette says, and this is the head coach of the Predators, this was the second time in his career that he left a best-of-7 series and wasn't convinced that the best team won. So he's kind of taking shots at Vancouver, saying that they weren't the better team. Come on, man. Like, it was a close series. I think it could have gone either way, honestly. But let's look at a couple of the optics here from this quote. Okay, so he felt that Nashville was the better team. I'll give him game 4. Canucks should have not won that game. Nashville fell apart. Canucks took advantage. They got it done. That was the game they were down. I think it was 3-1. Canucks score 2 late in the game, and then they win in overtime. They did not deserve that game. Outside of that, though, I mean, you could argue game 2 should have went the Canucks way. I know that was the one they lost 4-1, but the Canucks, like, they were in their zone a ton, and Nashville was just blocking every shot in sight. So you kind of make the argument there. But this is what it boils down to. Pettersson didn't even play well in their series. That's one of their best players. Nashville had way more power plays than the Canucks did too. And the biggest factor, Canucks lost their starting goaltender early in that series. They lost their backup goaltender, and they had to go to their third string. So you're telling me that you were a better team than the Canucks when you had your starting goalie the entire time, who actually was a factor in a couple of those games? Give me a break. This is so lame by Brunette to say. I lost a lot of respect for him for saying that. Like, it's not even like gamesmanship. Like, I could understand if he said this and they're going into game 7 and he's like, we're the better team. That might be something to rile up, the team for game 7 if that was to happen. But like, the series is over. You just look like poor losers. We were the better team. No, you weren't. You weren't the better team, because the Canucks are playing the Oilers tonight, not you guys. And on top of all that, Canucks had to overcome a shit ton of adversity that they didn't. I think their only injury that they had was Luke Schenn, I think, for a couple series. That's not a game changer. That's not like Yossi going out. That's not like Saros going out. Really lame here by Andrew Brunette. And then I know Emma also mentioning like, wow, Canucks fans are pissed off. Well, yeah, because like, it's just a stupid thing to say. Like, what do you expect people to say in response to this? Come on, man. But that's sort of the narrative even going into this series. A lot of people aren't giving Canucks a chance against the Oilers. Let's talk quickly about that. Look, I'm going to be realistic here. I'm not a completely biased Canucks fans. Oilers should win this series. I know the Canucks are the higher seed. I know the Canucks beat them during the regular season, but we can throw all that out the window for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Canucks did win the season series 4-0, but you have to remember Edmonton had that terrible start to the season at the time the Canucks played them. So there's that. And these games were before the All-Star break when Edmonton was just garbage. So there's that. And I think Edmonton did underestimate the Canucks. That's why the Canucks took advantage. Remember, there was that one game, it was like 9-1. The Canucks won. I think that was the home opener. So you can't really put too much stock. And then here's another thing. The Avalanche lost to the Jets. They didn't win a single game against the Jets this year. Guess who won that series in the first round? It was the Avalanche. So we can throw that out the window. The only game that the Oilers played against the Canucks later in the season happened to be a game that the Canucks won 3-1, but it also happened to be a game where McDavid wasn't playing. So you can't take too much stock in the regular season. The Oilers should be favored to win. I had a friend of mine who was like, hey, you want to make a wager on the Canucks-Oilers series? No, because I don't think the Canucks are going to win. Like, I'm a realist. Can the Canucks win? Yes, they can win. If they get elite goaltending, they don't take as many penalties, and they have guys like Pettersson step up, I think they can win. Because here's one thing I want to focus on in this series, and I think this is going to be very relevant throughout this series. Edmonton has to win this series. The Canucks don't. This is how I look at this, through my lenses, and you guys tell me if I'm right or wrong here. The Oilers, their expectation going into the season was Stanley Cup or bust. That's the truth. They have not gotten to the finals. They have not won the Stanley Cup. They've had this group together for quite some time. The core group of, Nugent Hopkins, Nurse, Draisaitl. Like their expectation coming into the season was to win the cup. What was the Canucks' expectation? That's something I think that's getting lost in this entire thing. The Canucks' expectation was, if we play our best hockey, quote from Jim Rutherford, if we play our best hockey, we might make the playoffs. Might. Not only did they make the playoffs, they won the Pacific Division. They ended up with a very good record. They had, a lot of nominations for awards this year. You look at Quinn Hughes with the Norris. You look at Thatcher Demko with the Vezina. You look at Rick Tocchet, likely going to win the Jack Adams. This was a unexpected thing to happen this year, the Canucks being as good as they are. From my perspective, honest to God, if the Canucks lose this round, I will not be upset because they weren't supposed to even get here. They were supposed to barely make it in the playoffs, and maybe they win a round, which they did. They beat Nashville, which Nashville, very, very tough team. So that's why if you look right now on most odds books, sports books, I should say, Edmonton's like a 3-1 favorite to win the series, as they should be. They've been there before. They have one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world, in Connor McDavid. The only weaknesses, like I said, are I don't think their depth is there. I think their defense is a little overrated, and they have questionable goaltending. But outside of that, on paper, they should beat the Canucks. But like I said, I think tonight's a big, big thing for the Canucks. If they can take advantage, Edmonton's had a lot more rest. Remember, they finished their series in 5. The Canucks finished theirs in 6. Edmonton did not have anywhere near the travel that Vancouver did for the Nashville series, right? We're talking an 8-hour flight and compared to a couple hours to go to LA back and forth. The other thing that I think is getting lost in this Canucks and Oilers series as well is that LA was not primed to beat the Oilers. They just weren't. What did LA do when they fired their coach? They started playing a more defensive trap style play, focusing more on defense. Well, guess what? That can only work for so long when you're playing a team like the Oilers, because the Oilers have Connor McDavid. And when you have Connor McDavid, it's pretty hard to stop him and not score yourself. LA does not have any difference makers up front. Kopitar's not what he used to be. Pierre-Luc Dubois, let's be honest, has been an absolute disaster for that team. They don't have any difference makers like the Oilers did with McDavid and Draisaitl. So LA was never going to win that series. Add in the fact that LA has goaltending issues up the wazoo. They have Cam Talbot and David Rittich, who I even forgot was on the team this year. So I think that the Oilers are kind of being a little bit overrated from that series as well, because how is LA going to win that series? Who even picked LA? Find me an analyst other than outside of Los Angeles or California that picked LA to beat Edmonton. No one did. So they were expected to beat LA. I know the Canucks did not do well against LA this year for whatever reason. That was a bad matchup, but every matchup's different. I will say a couple things about this Oilers Canucks series. I think you're not going to see the same series that you saw against Nashville. What did people say? Boring series, low scoring. That's not going to happen here. I think there's going to be a lot more goals scored by the Canucks. I think there's going to be a lot more goals scored here by the Oilers, because I think the Oilers are more lethal up front, as are the Canucks. And the Canucks don't have to worry about having UC Saros in net. They have Stuart Skinner, who's a much easier goaltender, in my opinion, than Stuart Skinner. So I think you'll see this be a lot more high scoring as well. But getting back to the overall theme of this theory, and something where I have optimism about the Canucks, the Oilers have to win. Here's what happens if the Oilers don't win. Draisaitl, let's go look at his contract. I think he's got 1 year left, and then he's going to get a big raise. So let's have a quick look here at the Oilers. So they have no cap space at all. And look at this. Leon Draisaitl, he's got 1 more year at 8.5. He's not going to get 8.5 in the next contract. He's going to get close to McDavid money. And whether that's in Edmonton or not. So that's going to be a cap, tight cap thing. They've got Darnell Nurse signed up forever, who's not even close to worth $9 million. Darnell Nurse is a $5 million defenseman, in my opinion. Close to that. Ekholm's been a good pickup for them. Evan Bouchard's good, but again, he's going to be up the year after. He's going to be way higher than 3.9. Jack Campbell's still signed for a while. They're stuck with that contract. Skinner's on a cheap contract, but again, they have goaltending issues. That's why they couldn't get a goaltender. They don't have any cap space. So kind of putting it out there, guys, like from a pressure standpoint, Edmonton has to win. If they don't win, shit's going to get real ugly in Edmonton. If the Canucks don't win, yeah, they're going to lose a couple key players in the offseason, but they've got a good core right now of young players and players that, you know, again, they got Demko for a couple more years. Silovs has been out of nowhere. Like if he can play well in the series, he might be a guy you look to for your future goaltending or your future, goaltending spot. They've got guys in the prospect pool. LeCara Matthews look good. Tom Willander, right shot defenseman, good draft pick there last year. You've got guys like Archie Baines in the system who, seems to look like he's going to make the team at some point. So kind of what I'm getting at here, like Edmonton has to win this. Canucks don't. Canucks, this is how I look at it. Canucks are playing with house money. They really are. Like they weren't even supposed to be here. They're here. They got the first 2 games at home. That's an advantage too. Canucks can win this. Will they win it? Probably not. But again, the pressure's on the Oilers. They have to win. And again, this is a team in Edmonton who had to change coaches midway through the season and went on a crazy run. But you look at that run as well, not a lot of strong teams during that run. So that's my rant on the Oilers and Canucks. What do we have here? There's some rumors circulating around Joel Quenneville gets reinstated. Quenneville could also be a guy maybe. See, I think, what might be a good fit for Quenneville is Winnipeg. Because Quenneville's a guy, I don't think he's a good coach for a rebuild, which is what San Jose's doing. He'd be a good coach for a team that's trying to get to the Cup. Quenneville in Winnipeg might be one worth keeping an eye on. We're rumored Matthew Darsh or Eric Tulowski. Tulowski's not leaving Carolina. I doubt it, unless they have some. Oh, another coaching vacancy that could happen. This is one I forgot to mention. Glad you reminded me here because you mentioned Carolina. Did Rod Brind'Amour not wasn't there an issue with his contract extension in Carolina? If he's gone, he might be an option too, and he's a good coach. Carolina's just, I don't know, the owner, there's some issue there with the owner and payment and all that stuff. So Brind'Amour could be another name on the market too. So keep an eye out for that. Maybe that's what New Jersey's looking at too. But yeah, I don't think Tulski's going to leave. From what I've heard, they're very keeping him tight to the vest. But Darsh was a finalist for the Canucks, just so you guys know. It was between him and Alvin, is my understanding. Davidson's the president, correct. Top line for Nashville is really good, but other than that, it was questionable. Really good, but no difference makers. Like Gus Nyquist and Forsberg, they're not like McDavid. You know what I mean? Like they don't have any superstars. Since Christmas break, Nashville had the second most goals per game, and Vancouver definitely did great defensively last series. I'm confident in their defense. Yeah, you could argue Vancouver is one of the best defensive cores right now. Look at Zadorov, how he stepped up. You got Myers, who's a big body. Myers has had a great season under Rick Tocchet. Even depth guys like Mark Friedman or Juleson, they can step in and play pretty well. Ian Cole, Stanley Cup experience. Got to like that. 3 of the 4 Canucks wins were when Woodcroft was there. I think Vancouver can win the series. Will go 6 or 7 games. I like the optimism. I think there's a high probable that Leon, Nugent Hopkins, or Kane gets traded if they don't win this year. I agree. Canucks are in need of a win situation with the team we have. Like you said, we can't keep everyone. Yeah, but it's not going to be like, I don't know, this Hronek thing kind of scares me a bit. If he wants $8 million, that's one that you got to keep an eye on. But a lot of the guys are not like guys you have to keep. Like if Lindholm leaves, it's not the end of the world. Teddy Bluger leaves, not the end of the world. I think you have to find a way to keep Dakota Joshua. It's hard to find like big body guys that can hit and play well on a third line. Joshua's a guy you got to keep. You got Pius Suter for a couple more years. Makheyev's signed for a couple more years or a year or two. The goaltending's fine. Quinn Hughes is locked up. Pettersson's locked up. I'm not that worried about the Canucks because the core players that they have are still there. Pettersson, Hughes, Miller, Demko's got a couple more seasons. They're going to be fine for a couple more seasons. It's the guys like Cole and Bluger, Lindholm, who are on like 1-year deals that you have to worry about. Maybe they'll let DeSmith walk if things continue to go so well. I think so too. But we'll see. It depends. I would this would be my prediction here. If Silovs continues to play well in the playoffs, like let's say they lose to Edmonton, but Silovs like plays that lights out and makes like 40 saves a game or 30 saves a game or something. I think there's a good possibility they let DeSmith walk and let Silovs as the backup. And what I would like to see next year is more of a split. There's a kind of a school of thought right now, and I don't disagree with it, that maybe Demko's injury prone. But to his credit, he plays a lot, man. He plays a lot. And I think that's something they need to address a little bit more. They did a better job this year than last year when it came to Demko's workload. I think them balancing out DeSmith was good, and granted Demko got injured. But I think with his injury history, you might want to have the 1-2 punch like Boston does with Swayman and Allmark, where you have Silovs and Demko. So we'll see. If Seelovs has a couple bad games in the series, maybe he's not ready yet. Maybe you do keep him in the A for another year and you re-sign DeSmith on a friendly contract, because apparently DeSmith's like a good locker room guy too. I could see that happening. But if I was a betting man right now, I'm a believer in Seelovs. I think he ends up playing well this series. I don't think he comes out. I think he plays all the games. I think he will be the backup next year. That's my prediction. Expected more to Ryan O'Reilly. Yeah, but he's getting up there in age. How old is O'Reilly now? He's like 31, something like that. 33. Ryan O'Reilly is 33. I was right. So he's getting up there, right? He was drafted in 2009. So he's not the old Ryan O'Reilly that we're used to. All right, guys, 15 minutes left. Let's get your questions in. Let me know some of the stuff that's on your mind right now. If there's any other games you want to talk about, any other series. Let's quickly go over the scores from last night again, guys, and we'll keep answering your questions here. So again, if you missed it last night, Dallas blowing a 3-0 lead in the third period to lose to the Avalanche. The Avalanche are up 1-0. That's big for the Avs. They were on the road. They end up getting it done. The Rangers, again, persevering as well, getting 4 goals on Frederik Andersen. Shesterkin, 50-something saves last night. Let's find that again. It was 54 saves last night. Damn. That's really good. Who's the, you know what? I actually don't even know. Who's the Rangers backup? Is it Jonathan Quick? I think it is. Yeah. So they really need Shesterkin to not get injured and play well. So yeah, again, the Rangers up right now. They're looking good. The Stars down, but you can't count the Stars out. They were down, weren't they down 2-1? It was 2-0, I think, to Vegas, and then they came back and won the series. Tonight, you got the Panthers and Bruins. I'll call it. I'm going to say it. I think the Panthers will bounce back. I think they just, I don't know what it was, maybe too much overconfidence or whatever, maybe taking the Bruins too lightly. I think they'll bounce back in a big way. They need a better game from Bobrovsky, though. He's got to play better. The Canucks and Oilers. Who's winning tonight? I actually didn't even mention that. I just said I think the Oilers are going to win the series. Canucks are going to win. Why? Because I'm going to the game. They have to win. Listen, I've never been to a playoff game before. I don't even want to tell you guys what I spent for tickets, and they're not even like amazing seats, but like I'm one of those guys, that if you've followed me long enough, if you know how I roll, I'm all about life experience. I'm not all about money. Money comes and goes. At the end of the day, when you're, sitting there on a rocking chair on your final days, the only thing you're going to have is memories. You're not going to remember how much money you spent on things. So every now and then you got to splurge. The second the Nashville series was over, I went online and I bought Canucks tickets, and I bought them for my mom because my mom is one of the biggest hockey fans I know. My mom is someone who, and I'll just mention this quickly, I don't mind sharing this, but my mom is one of the kindest people I've ever met in my life. She always puts others ahead of her. In fact, when I called her, she was so shocked that I got tickets. She wanted me to give them to someone else because she felt like she didn't deserve them. But no, Mom, it's Mother's Day. You're coming to the game tonight. So I'm taking her out for dinner. Then we're going to go to the game after. Canucks are going to win tonight. There's no way with my mom in attendance and I in attendance that the Canucks are going to lose tonight. I'm going to go the Canucks 3-2. It'll be close. I think the Canucks will score the first one. I think the Oilers might get a couple in the periods in between. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be close. But I think the Canucks get it done at home. That building, how can you lose when you've got that crowd there? One of the loudest crowds in the NHL. The towels will be waving. Canucks are going to win tonight 3-2. I'm calling it right now. Let's go Canucks. I just want a lot of goals from Vancouver tonight. I love their goal song. Oh, the Don't Forget About Me. Yeah, I don't mind it. It's not my favorite. It's way better than the Van Halen song they had last time. Remember their old goal song that they had after Green Day? Green Day is still the best one. Holiday was still the best goal song that they've ever had, in my opinion. I'd like them to go back to that. But what is it? Don't Forget About Me. Who sings that again? It's an 80s song. I actually really like that song too. Simple Minds. Don't You Forget About Me. Because then the crowd can go la 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 when they score the goal. It's really cool. The game celebration song. Why did they get rid of Elton John? That was a great song. I'm Still Standing by Elton John. Way better than Pitbull. Not a Pitbull fan. Come on, Canucks. You gotta figure that out. Not a fan of that. Also, gotta say this. This is their best jersey. That's why I wear this one all the time. This was their third jersey last year. It's simple. I love the Johnny Canuck logo. I think it looks great. I like the darker blue and the darker green. You know, that West Coast colors, right? Like the Seahawks have these colors too. I'm a big fan of this jersey, so I hope they go back to it at some point. I'd also like, hey, let me know what you guys think too. I'd love the Canucks to bring the skate back for the playoffs, just for like a game or two. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this jersey, bring this one back. Bring this back for one of the games. That would be great. Anyways, back to your questions. They'll overpay Demko, especially against bottom feeder teams. They overplay Demko, especially against the bottom feeder teams. He played in Chicago late last year. That made no sense. Well, one of the things we know about Demko, and again, shout out to Kevin Woodley. He's like a goaltending journalist for In Goal Magazine. He's always on Sportsnet. I love listening to that guy talk. Like I could sit for like hours and hear him just talk about like details with goaltenders. Cause like I don't know, I'm like a nerd that way. I love, like I didn't even play goal growing up, but I just love hearing that stuff. But he kind of mentions that Demko's like a very big, like, you know, reps guy. Like he's got to be in there. I think a lot of that had to do with him wanting to play, but you're right. They need to play their backup more. I'd like to see that happen more next season. We need to change our goal song, Viking metal, please. But what, give me a song though. You say Viking metal. Give me a Viking metal song that you think would be good. Not like a yell, not like a scream into the mic type thing. I don't like that. I went to game 2 of the 2011 finals. Very pricey, but unforgettable. That's exactly it. Listen, I got tickets 2 years ago when the Canucks played in Vegas. I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again. I went to the Canucks Golden Knights game in Vegas 2022 because they played in November that year. So I do a thing every year. You guys know this. Me and my friend from high school, we always go down to Vegas and see a game every year. It's like, great. Just go for like 2 days. So we went to that game. Canucks won 5-2. That was the year they didn't even make the playoffs. But that was so cool because that building is one of my favorite buildings in the league is the T-Mobile Arena where the Knights play. So the Canucks win. But the best part about it is you leave the arena, you go to the casino after or wherever. We went to New York after. And there's all these Canucks fans wearing their jersey. And you're in like this awesome city of Las Vegas. And people are just giving you high fives. People are having drinks. That was one of the coolest memories I've ever had. So I've never been to a playoff game. So that was part one of why I wanted to go to this playoff game tonight is because I've never been to a game. So I got to add that to the bucket list, right? So that's one for sure. Number 2, I always wanted to do something nice for my mom. I'm luckily I'm in a financial position where I'm able to, do stuff like this. So very, very grateful and thankful for that. So it was a no-brainer to bring my mom because I've always wanted to do something nice for my mom. And, the fact that she likes hockey, figured it's a good move there with Mother's Day coming up as well. And number 3, I won't lie about this. I hate the Oilers. If you want to know why I hate the Oilers, I'll tell you right now. I've talked about this before. No team, in my opinion, has got more first overall picks than the Oilers. This is a team that had Wayne Gretzky forever. This is a team that had so many opportunities and had so many Stanley Cup wins in the past. I believe if you get a first overall pick, you should not be able to get a first overall pick for like 10 years or something. Canucks have never had a first overall pick, and we've had some lousy teams and we've had some awful luck with the draft lottery. So that's why I don't like the Oilers. I don't mind Edmonton as a city. I think their fans are passionate, although they can be a little bit rude, but the Canucks fans are pretty ruthless as well. I actually am enjoying all the back and forth on social media. I kind of enjoy seeing that side of things. But screw Edmonton, man. These are the first overall picks they've had that come to mind. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I think, was first overall. Taylor Hall was first overall. Connor McDavid was first overall. Leon Draisaitl was not first overall, but very close to it. Nail Yakupov was first overall. They had a bust in there too. Like, what's with this team getting first overall picks and teams like Vancouver and like even going back like Toronto? I guess they had Matthews, but like outside of that, they haven't had a lot of first overall. Montreal at least got a first overall recently, right? With what's his name, Yuri, the Czech or Slovak guy, right? Canucks have never got a first overall pick. I feel like the Oilers keep getting handed all these great opportunities and they keep messing it up because they don't have good general managers. They had Chiarelli and now they've had Ken Holland, who's done an okay job. But anyway, so yeah, that's my rant on the Oilers. If the Canucks entertain training Philip Hronek and the target of a right-hand UFA might be the best fit between Matt Roy, Chris Tanev, and Sean Walker. Problem with Tanev is I would love Tanev back in Vancouver. Listen, I'd even overpay a little bit to get Tanev. The problem is that guy's got a lot of miles on him and that adds up. And that was one of the issues. They didn't re-sign him in Vancouver because he wasn't healthy all the time. So that's why they couldn't justify paying him what he did. But that Tanev move ended up setting back the Canucks a while because they just had terrible defense for years until this year, basically. So yeah, I don't know. I personally think you do everything you can to keep Hronek because listen, do I think Hughes has, elevated his numbers? Yes, but he's young. I think there's potential there and it's hard to get a right shot D and they gave up so much to get him. It's like, it'd be hard to like I don't think whoever they could get would be better than Hronek. So I don't think he's worth $8 million a season, but you got to figure something out. If I'm Alvin, I just go to him and be like, look, dude, do you want to win a Stanley Cup or not? Because wherever else you go, it's probably not going to be as good. Like that they brought back U2 Streets Have No Name. I agree. I know you already talked about it, but I'm late. Is Demko going to play or is he still out? Game 5 at the earliest, which Mark is mentioning here. I still don't know if he comes back though. Why risk it? If Seelovs is playing well, why risk it? The only way I could see Demko coming back is out of desperation, but it's like, and they're down, maybe they're down like 3-0 or something in the series. But even then, like, do you want to risk Demko's long-term health? Like, it's tough. Call of Vahilia by Holy Grail. I'll have to look that one up. I love the first pick jealousy. Lottery can be cruel. Hope your team continues to be good and don't have to worry about the lottery. Yeah, listen, it's a totally jealous, petty thing of why I don't like the Oilers. But come on, like they've gotten so many good players over the years and the Canucks haven't. And it's not even like, yes, the Canucks have drafted bad in certain scenarios. Like they drafted Jake Virtanen. They traded Jared McCann for Gabranson, who we talked about earlier, right? Which was like, they had Jim Benning for years who just, set this team back for years. But they had a couple good drafts. Demko, later pick. Pettersson, Hughes fell into their lap. Hughes is still the craziest pick they've ever had because the pick before them was Detroit, or a couple picks after that was Detroit, and Hughes is from Michigan. How can they not pick him? It was crazy. I don't know how the Wings missed on that. So the Canucks got lucky with that, but they've never had a first overall pick. Even the that year they drafted the Sedins, Patrick Stefan was the first overall pick. It wasn't the Sedins. So there we go. All right, guys, let's get one more question. I got to take off a little bit earlier today. I do have an interview to do after this, so just pointing that out. Otherwise, we'll just do the Bueller thing. I think I'll be back next Wednesday. I might go live on Friday. We'll see after Game 2. We'll see. Just depends on my schedule and stuff, but I'll let you guys know. Just keep an eye out on my Twitter at Lynch on Sports or my main channel, which is at Lynch on Sports as well. You can find all that stuff there. Okay, good time to end the show, guys. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you have any questions that you didn't get answered today, if you're watching the replay or whatever, post them in the comments. We don't get a ton of comments on this video, so I'm more than happy to come back and answer your questions. Other than that, guys, enjoy the first game of the Oilers Canucks here tonight. I might be back Friday, more likely back on Wednesday, but I'll let you guys know. Hope you guys, Canucks missed on Dylan Larkin in 2014, so kind of evened out getting Hughes. That's true. Who did they draft in? Oh, was that the year they took Yo Levy? Probably. Anyways, all good. Good way to end this show. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, guys. I'll talk to you guys soon.